You know, before I start this video, I want to say, Hangman Page! Hangman Page! Hangman Page! It's once again the AEW World Champion. He won it All In this past week, All In Texas. And finally ended the reign of terror of Jon Moxley, because this time it was really a reign of terror for Jon Moxley. But anyway. So today, if you haven't noticed, today is a wrestling figure topic video. I'm going to be talking about the AEW Jazzware line. I'm going to talk about the WWE Mattel line. As you can see, Stone Cold Steve Austin right there, the new built Stone Cold. Ron Simmons, I don't know where the headband went, but there's the 91 to 94 WCW title. We got the old Hollywood Hogan with the NWO World Heavyweight title. And also behind Wardlow is Rey Mysterio with the TV title. So anyway, so I'm going to have to talk about AEW Jazzware and all that. I'm going to talk about, the TNA figures that are coming for Power Town. And I'll probably be talking a lot about Power Town. I usually don't talk about the independent wrestling places, but felt like I had to talk about it because they are making the new TNA figures. We haven't had TNA figures since the early days of TNA. Because right after Jax gave up on a WWE line, and Toy Biz, I guess, went under. They're back now. Toy Biz went under, so Jax took over the TNA line. We're going to talk about the announcements that TNA, or that AEW made over this past weekend. And, pretty big announcements. Now, they said there was supposed to be a game changer announcement as far as figures go with AEW at All In Texas. We did not get that. Maybe we get it at Comic-Con, but anyway. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the modern day wrestling figure scene. But anyway, let's get into it. First of all, let me say, I've been saying this ever since AEW came out with figures. It's nice to once again have another company outside of WWE having action figures. And as a wrestling figure fan, it's a good time to be a wrestling figure fan. Because you got the AEW Jazzware line, you got the TNA figures coming out, all that stuff. But, quite frankly, I feel like WWE and Mattel, Jazzware and Mattel, are the two top wrestling figure companies. Because, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, so let's get into the AEW announcements they made. So, finally, after over a year, or maybe two, AEW announced a Sting 3-pack, 3 different versions of Sting. Kind of like what was made in the day with the Toy Biz figures. 3 different versions of Sting. With, the Surfer Sting, the Crow Sting, and then modern day Sting. They finally announced a release date for it after they revealed it a few years ago. And, as you can see, this is the only Sting figure I was lucky enough to find for my son's collection with the AEW figures. All the other Stings just sold like hotcakes. Now, there is one at the Antique Mall in Alexandria. And when I have more money, if it's still there, I might pick it up. But I think one of the heads is missing to it. I might pick up that Surfer Sting. But, yeah, so we finally got the announcement of that Sting. Then we got the announcement of the next Unrivaled and Unmatched series is I gotta say, the unrivaled wave, or the unmatched wave, is gonna be pretty cool. Because the next wave is gonna have two different versions of Ric Flair, Mercedes Moné, I think Will Ospreay and all that, and I think a couple other ones, but I don't know. But, you know, AEW. Yeah, one thing I do hope they do, since they've changed it, is they need to change the side plates and change the we need an updated AEW championship, because this belt is outdated now. Because now they got the interchangeable side plates, kind of like how WWE has theirs. As you see this, the only Hangman Page with the frickin' pantses like that, so yeah. He's got the scarf, all that. But, yeah. But back behind Stone Cold Steve Austin and Goldberg. Because, you know, three best titles in wrestling are side by side. As you got the Attitude Era belt in Stone Cold's hand, and that is the blue version. You got the AEW World Championship in Hangman's hand, and you got the WCW World Heavyweight Championship in Goldberg's hand. So anyway, so all the new AEW stuff they announced over the weekend was pretty exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to see what they do at San Diego Comic-Con, because Comic-Con is like next week. So I can't wait to see what they do with San Diego Comic-Con. You know, and we know WWE Mattel, they're going to have a ton of new reveals for WWE figures at Comic-Con. They'll probably announce the new crowdfunder that they're going to be doing and all that. So yeah, but you know, something I'm hoping to see more of at Comic-Con this year, it's more of this freaking Stone Cold Steve Austin new built body mold figures. Now the Defining Moments is coming out with it. And if you saw my review of this figure last week, you know how much I love this figure. And man, this is a definitive Stone Cold. We should not get any more Stone Colds that don't have this built. From here on in, when they get Stone Cold figures out, he needs to have this build. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm hoping to see more of that guy. Now with the Goldberg, being that his final match was just this past Saturday, and as you see, I got my Ultimate Edition with the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And you know, the best freaking championship ever made. I don't care what anybody says, but yeah, hoping to see some more Goldberg figures be plugged out. Can't wait to get him in the game next week. But, you know, can't wait to see more Goldberg figures plugged out, because this one, if they come out with the new Goldberg, I don't know, I might, depends on how he looks. If he looks different from this, I might freaking buy it, but if he looks the same as this, you know, I'll be like, hey, I got the one I need. I had to buy that off of Amazon. That was the Amazon exclusive, where he came with the WCW US title and the WWE version of the World Heavyweight Championship. Something else I think we need to get with Comic-Con is the Wolfpack Hollywood Hogan. And if you're wondering where I got the shirt, this is, like I said, this is the old Hollywood Hogan. As you can see, the pins are still there. The build is different from the new body mold they used in the newer one, or the re-release. But I got this shirt off the Storm Collectibles Hollywood Hogan that I bought for my son a while back. And I just do this shirt on him because, you know, this shirt works better for Hogan. Especially having that NWO title. The proper version of the NWO title finally. Yeah, you know, so Very excited to see what Comic-Con reveals. And like I said, I'm hoping we'll get the Wolfpack Hogan with the Wolfpack logo World Heavyweight Championship WCW version. Also something I'm hoping, I don't know when they'll do it, but I'm hoping they start making upgrades on the AEW figures. I mean, honestly. The pins, I know a lot of people like the pinless figures these days. And I don't have a problem with the pins, but, you know, a lot of other people do, and I think, you know, making them pins, getting the size right and all that stuff with the AEW figures would work perfectly. And this is the AEW version of Cody Rhodes. It's hard to find any WWE versions, but hey, got the AEW versions. Which, you know, yeah, ended up being hard to find eventually. Then you got MJF back there. The man. The guy that's going to dethrone Hangman Page sometime later this year or maybe early next year. MJF. He's better than you, and you know it. And, you know, I feel like out of all the MJF figures, this is the best one. That's why I haven't bought any other MJF figures for my son. Because this is the best MJF, in my opinion, that they've made. Jared's Words has made. Only problem is he ain't got the wrist tape on the hands, and, you know, that's an issue, but hey. That's still the best MJF figure they've made so far with Jazzwares lines. So, hopefully we see more of that at, you know, Comic-Con. You know, maybe somewhere down the line, maybe a year or two from now, they'll start changing the formula on some of these AEW figures. One more thing I want to talk about Comic-Con before I frickin' move on to my thoughts and opinions on the modern day wrestling figures as compared to the old ones. Is the frickin', you know what, we've gotten every other WCW championship, but we need that version of the television title that looked like the Intercontinental title. Before they went to this design, which I like this design. I think it's a nice design. It's like one of my favorite belt designs. I like this freaking belt. I hear some people bash it. Some people say, oh, it's just a smaller version of the freaking big gold. But you know what? It's a nice belt. I think it's a really good belt, and I think Mattel did a good job on this. Now we just need to get the one that looks like the Intercontinental title. Also got to get a hold of that NWA freaking television title as well. But yeah, actually, before I go into talking about my thoughts and my opinions on current day wrestling figures compared to old wrestling figures, let me talk about the TNA figures by Powertown now. Giving a shout out to Kyle Peterson because he's the one that brung Power, that's been talking the most about Powertown these past couple of years. How, you know, they've had all these pre-orders set up, but they haven't sent nothing out, and they don't update people on stuff or anything like that. But yeah, I mainly want to talk about their TNA figures because them TNA figures originally, when they first revealed them, they looked like they were going to be pretty good. They looked like they were going to be on par with the AEW Jazzwares and the WWE Mattel figures. But, and that's a big but, unfortunately that's not the case. Them things look terrible. Eddie Edwards figure looks terrible. The frickin' Moose figure looks terrible. And, oh boy. You know, they also made some Ultras. They made Medusa. She looks terrible. They made a frickin' Kamala. That figure looks terrible. And I hope the people that spent the money on getting those, hopefully, first of all, hopefully they eventually get those figures. Hopefully. And another thing. Hopefully that when they finally come out with those figures, hopefully people don't have to go through this again with Power Towns. Because, boy, and hopefully those TNA figures are a lot better than what they look like when they came out. Now, you know, Ringside has started their unsanctioned Classic Superstars line, so maybe if you want the Jakks Classic Superstar feel, probably go with the Ringside figures. But, you know what? Who knows? Anything can happen. But, you know, so, yeah. Those Power Town figures look terrible. And I heard the first wave, I think they did like 2 waves. They put out 2 waves, maybe 1. I heard the first wave, a lot of the figures broke. And I was excited for the Power Town figures because I'm like, you know, they were coming out with belts that Mattel can't come out with and that AEW Jazzwares can't come out with because they don't have the rights to them. But there was, I think it was a Magnum TA figure was supposed to come with the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship. Or was it frickin' Bruiser Brody? It might have been Bruiser Brody. Yeah, I think it was Bruiser Brody. Was supposed to come out with the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship. And I was thinking about buying the Power Town figures, but everything I've heard about them, and plus they're super expensive, so I couldn't afford it anyway. But, you know, everything I've heard about Power Town figures is that they are super expensive. And they're not giving you good quality for that price they charge for them. And they haven't been shipped out to the people that did pre-order them, the people that did buy them, and then freaking Power Town won't give no updates to nobody. Now, they came up with an update, what, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. They gave an update after making people wait for 2 years. But yeah, those TNA figures look ouch, you know. TNA figures look terrible. You know, and I wish they would have just made them better. One thing I have been hoping for from an independent wrestling company, I don't know if it's Zombie Sailor or whatever his name is, whoever's making it, but I've been waiting to find that Ahmed Johnson. The only place I'll probably be able to find it is I'm either going to have to go to Lexington and find it at Toy Headquarters, or I'm going to have to go all the way over to Fairfield and find the frickin' Ahmed Johnson from Zombie Sailor. But I don't think he's shipped it yet. I think he's still, I think he got delayed. But because Mattel ain't going to make no Ahmed Johnson figures. I don't know, maybe Triple H will work out things where we could get Ahmed Johnson WWE figures and get a gold strapped Intercontinental title. But I highly doubt it. Yeah, I have to wait and see. But yeah. Honestly, I gotta say, I'm glad. One, I didn't have the money to invest into the Power Town figures because I wouldn't have got my figures. And two, I'm glad I decided, you know what, I'll just stick with the AEW Jazzwares figures for right now. Except for when that freaking Ahmed Johnson comes out from like Zombie Sailor or something. I'll probably pick that up. Maybe Gangrel, I don't know. You know, I thought Gangrel was cool when I was a teenager, but when I just got done watching the Monday Night War stuff recently, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's, you know, Gangrel's not as cool as he was when I was a teenager. I'll just say that. Alright, now, I've talked about what, you know, and I've talked about all that, talked about how ugly the TNA figures are. Imagine how the belts will look for the Power Town figures. I'm pretty sure. Because, I mean, the AEW, WWE belts look pretty good. You know, I got an issue with some of the oversizing on some of the AEW belts. Like, hey, you know, TNT title. And, you know, it's not like Mattel hasn't made mistakes. They frickin' have oversized a few of their belts, too. I don't know. The Cruiserweight title for WCW. They made this version of the frickin' WCW Championship smaller than what it originally was in real life. And, not to mention the WCW US titles are a little bit oversized. I'll say this though, the TV belt, the tag team belts look great. I like the TV and tag team belts from the Mattel figure line. And I mean the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, the big gold looks fantastic. I mean, look at how great that freaking belt looks. The size, the freaking paint apps, the way the rubies look. I mean, this belt just looks so freaking amazing. As far as a figure championship belt, the side plates look good. I mean, shoot. I think the TBS title, I think they also oversized. Talking about AEW Jazzwares. And I think they made the freaking possibly the international title a little too big. The current women's title I think is a little bigger than it should be. The tag team titles, like I said, I think they're a little smaller. AEW World Championship looks perfect the way that one's made. I mean, this belt looks perfect. It's just outdated because they switched some of the things with the championship, like the side plate stuff. But yeah, I think that looks good in figure form. Probably why the AEW World Championship was like the most popular freaking AEW Jazzwares belt they came out with. Let's see. Anything else I need to say before I move on to my thoughts and my feelings about current, wrestling figures compared to the old ones? That's the whole purpose of this video. But like I said, it's Toy Talk, just talking about wrestling figures. So, yeah, I mean, my opinion, this is only my opinion. Now, look, I grew up playing with the old WWE figures, the old LJNs, the old Hasbros, the old Bone Crunchers, and all that stuff. There were some figure lines that were good, but then there was some figure lines that weren't so good. Titantron figures. But I gotta say, my opinion, I think the modern day wrestling figures are better than the old school wrestling figures back in the day, because with WCW you had Galoob. Then you had OSTF. They also made ECW figures as well. OSTF did. You had the Toy Biz figures, which, for their time, I will say, the Toy Biz figures for their time was really good. For that time frame. Toy Biz figures were good. But, now you think about the Toy Biz figures, even with the belts, I mean, they didn't fill in the frickin' WCW Championship belts. You only got the WCW Championship belt with the figures. You didn't get, and the Toy Biz WCW, you didn't get no other WCW championships with the Toy Biz figures. The only championships you got with Toy Biz figures was the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Like I said, and that, for its time, was good too, but it does not compare with these modern Mattel WWE Championships. Or these modern Mattel WCW Championships. The modern Mattel WCW Championships are the best version. And, there for a while, the king of that was Jakks. Because Jakks, when Jakks came out with their Ruthless Aggression line, which was like the last, WWE figures they made, I really loved the Ruthless Aggression and Deluxe Aggression line. And I felt like the freaking, once they freaking made the bigger versions of the World Heavyweight titles for the Ruthless Aggression and Deluxe Aggression lines, I felt like they did way better than what, Toy Biz did with that belt. And like I said, I love the Toy Biz belt. I went and rebought a bunch of the Toy Biz WCW championships. Had me and my wife worked on them and fixed them up. Originally it was, to fill the gap because Mattel was not making WCW World Heavyweight Championships. They kept putting the frickin' WWE version of the championship on WCW guys, and that was irritating. Really, really irritating, to say the least. I'll get back to my talk about it in a minute. I gotta get me something else to drink. My throat's starting to kill me. Space for a minute. And I gotta be honest with you, I think when Jakks had the rights to the TNA figures as well, they did a good job with those. I think the TNA figures, the best they were, was when Jakks did them. Now, they only lasted, I think like 12 series. And then they were done. But, a lot of the people that worked for Jakks, back when Jakks would have wrestling figure licenses, they always had, they're now working on Jazzwares with the current AEW figures. And I'll tell you, toy technology, ever since the 2000s, ever since the early and mid 2000s, boy, toy technology has gotten so good. Like with the Marvel figures, I loved the Marvel figures when they were made by Toy Biz. But then Hasbro comes along. It took them a while to get used to it, but then Hasbro started making good Marvel Legend figures. Kind of like with Mattel. I wasn't a fan of Mattel when Mattel first got the license to the figures of WWE, but honestly, since they've gotten a license, they have improved a lot of things on the WWE figures. Like with the Stone Cold figures. And my son's got a ton of Stone Colds. I had the Ultimate Edition Stone Cold, and none of them looked as immaculate as that frickin' Stone Cold right there, because it's just a perfect figure. A perfect Stone Cold figure. But when Mattel started doing the Ultimate Edition, that was one thing I got excited about, was the Ultimate Edition. I love that line. A lot of wrestling figures I bought are mainly Ultimates. I do have a couple of Elites. I got the Rick Rude because, to get the WCW Championship. I've got the Kane Ultimate. I got the Undertaker Ultimate, the original versions that came out. Got the Ultimate Warrior Ultimate, where he has the two belts. Got the Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 1 Ultimate. I got the 2002 to 2005 Hulk Hogan. Mainly to get the Undisputed belt. The proper sized version of the Undisputed Championship. Goldberg in the back, that belongs to me. uh, got the Andre the Giant Ultimate with the Andre the Giant belt. What else? And then I got that Vader Ultimate with this belt that Ron Simmons has. But I think they like kind of tweaked the one that came with Vader over this one. I think this one's basically all gold. But I think the Vader one, it's kind of gold and silver, the way that belt was originally. But the size still isn't great on it. And back to what I was saying about, my thought. I think current day wrestling figures are better than what they were back in the day. And I grew up playing with all these wrestling figure toy lines. I played with the LJNs, I played with the Gloobs, I played with the frickin' Titantron, Bone Crunchers, Hasbro. One thing I will say, I'm still a bigger Jakks fan than I am Mattel. But one thing I will say that Mattel has over Jakks is the fact that they have, better detailed belts, because a lot of the Jakks belts, they, would be an all gold belt. And you wouldn't have no blue apps or anything on a Winged Eagle belt or a Big Eagle belt. And every WCW figure they came out with the Jakks figures, because they came out with Ron Simmons. And Ron Simmons never came with this belt. They put out a Ron Simmons with a big gold championship. They didn't put out Ron Simmons with this belt specifically. Now, like I said, the only belt I did like was the big gold championships for Mattel. The Intercontinental belt didn't have blue deco, any of that stuff. And, when Jakks had the license, they never put out any of the WCW belts either. There was never a WCW United States Championship, a WCW Television Championship, a frickin' Cruiserweight belt. Or any of that. Mattel has given us a lot of the WCW belts. Still a few we need. WCW Hardcore title, the WCW Television title that looks like the Intercontinental title, the original awesome version of the Intercontinental title. Also, we need what else? Also, the 97 to 99 WCW Tag Team belts that the Outsiders started using in 97. I think it was after Sold Out when they started using those belts. But we need those belts. And like I said, even the Jazzware figures, I like them. You know what? When I collect wrestling figures, it's got to be something that hits the nostalgia feel for me that I grew up watching. I like AEW, but I didn't grow up watching AEW. I grew up watching WWF. I grew up watching WCW. I grew up watching ECW. AEW just came out in 2019. Even though they got some wrestlers that I, watched since I was a kid, like they had Sting. He's retired. Edge now, Christian. When I was a kid and teenager. But, I think with the way toy technology is these days and that, I think current wrestling figures are better than the older wrestling figures. As far as the belts go, One thing I don't like is, you know, the way the AEW figures some of them are made. Like Wardlow, for example. You put the WCW titles around his waist, it's going to stretch the strap and it's going to loosen the strap up a little bit. So, yeah. Or if you put the belt on Powerhouse Hobbs, just say you're like wanting to clown around. Now with Cody and MJF and maybe Sting, you probably won't stretch out the WCW titles. But, yeah. Yeah, and Rey Mysterio, heck, the friggin' belt's not going to fit Rey Mysterio. Yeah, that's the reason why I got this Wardlow, because so far this is the only Wardlow I liked. This was around the time he was at his peak. And, you know, since then, I don't know. They really dropped the ball on this guy. I mean, this guy was being compared to Goldberg. I even did a wrestling figure event, which I'll probably do a rewind on when I freaking, you know, if the rewinds do well. I did a rewind of when Wardlow versed Goldberg over there. Because I did do a Wardlow versus Goldberg match as well. And I did Stone Cold against Goldberg. Of course, I had to get that one out. One match I haven't done yet is Stone Cold against Hollywood Hogan, but I'm waiting for the Wolfpack Hogan before I do that match. Or I could have, you know, Stone Cold face Macho Man. And then just do The Rock against Hogan again. But you know what? We've already seen Rock Hogan. You know what we want to see? Yeah, we're going to see it. But you know what we want to see? We want to see this guy right here. Stone Cold Steve Austin. The guy that created the new boom period for WWF in the mid to late 90s against the guy that made WWF popular, Hulk Hogan. Like I said, I wanted to wait till I got a Wolfpack Hogan. But you know what? This would be pretty good for this match right here. Maybe down the road, if the rest of the figure shows keep doing good, I'm going to do away with King of the Figures, because that just did not work out. I also want to do some more crossover with the AEW guys and the WWE guys. I mean, heck, I put MJF against Ric Flair in one of my wrestling figure shows as well. And I did Sting versus Undertaker. It was a buried alive match. But anyway, that's my Toy Talk video. I want to talk about, you know, the modern day WWE figures. I want to talk about the AEW Jazzware figures. I want to talk about, you know, the old school wrestling figures such as Titantrons and Jakks, you know, Ruthless Aggression figures. And TNA figures. I want to talk about how ugly those TNA figures are that Powertown made. Also, yeah, I want to talk about, yeah, just give my opinion on what I think. And you know what? It took me a while to get on Mattel's bandwagon when they first got the WWE figures. But when they started plugging out stuff and they started improving things, especially at the point they're at right now with the way they're making WWE figures, they won me over. Because, you know, I loved the Jakks figure so much. I loved the Jakks Ruthless Aggression figure so much. I didn't like the belts, but I loved them. You know, something else I want to say about Comic-Con. Hopefully, we get a Stone Cold figure with this build, with the same knee brace, with this belt, with the Block logo on it. This belt had the Block logo. It did not have the Scratch logo. It had the Block logo. they didn't switch their scratch logo until they went with the black strapped title. The same version of this belt, just with the black strap. But Stone Cold Steve Austin's gonna whip your sorry ass. Looks, Hulk Hogan got so scared, Stone Cold knocked him over. He fell backwards. But yeah, and I want to do a Toy Talk video. Wednesday I'll be talking about Dragon Ball Daima and Dragon Ball Super. And the main reason why I want to do a Toy Talk video is because, we haven't had two big wrestling companies in a while that have toy lines. TNA did it first, but their freaking toy line got canceled after 12 waves. AEW's figures, and they have improved as well, because the AEW figures, let's not forget what Wave 1 looked like for AEW figures. Well, some of the skin tones looking terrible. But, Jazzwares improved their AEW figures over the years as well. And I think these, I like these figures. I like the AEW figures. I like the WWE figures. If I was a kid growing up in this time frame, I would buy myself more of the AEW figures. But you know what? I'm a 42-year-old man, and I mainly buy, nostalgic WWE figures. Because, the only elites I got over there on my shelf is the frickin' Triple H and the Rick Rude. Alright, I'll do it. Let me know your guys' thoughts on current day wrestling figures. Do you think I'm wrong about the current day wrestling figures being better than the old school ones? And I'm not going to say those figures weren't good, because for their time, they were good. LJNs were good for their time. The Galoobs were good for their time. The Hasbros were good for their time. WCW is still doing Galoobs. The OST figures were alright for their time. I think OSTF, I think they did better with the ECW figures than they did with the WCW figures. And the Toy Biz WCW figures were good for their time. And as much as I love the Jakks figures, Jakks has done a lot. I mean, Mattel has done a lot to really win me over. And I almost say they're better than Jakks, but I still like the Jakks figures a little bit better. I just felt like that was just revolutionary at the time when they came out with those freaking Jakks figures. But, like I said, let me know your guys' thoughts. And like I said, the figures for those times, they were good. They were fun to play with and all that stuff. But I think they're made better these days than they were back then. I like the modern figures over the old figures. Even though I still like the old figures. Like the Toy Biz, like the Hasbro, like the LJNs, like the frickin' Galoobs, like the frickin' OSTFs, and all that, but, like the Jakks Ruthless Aggression styles, because they also did that for TNA as well, but those frickin' Power Town TNA figures, oh boy. Blah. Also, I forgot to mention, in the post yesterday, rewind between the Hollywood Hogan and Sting redo of Starrcade 97 will be tomorrow night, probably around, probably do about 9. I'll probably do about 9 or 10. Oh yeah. Anyway, let me know what your guys' thoughts are on all the current day wrestlers and how you feel about the old school wrestling figures. And there's a special place in my heart for the old school wrestling figures. But I feel like they have come a long way from those old school wrestling figures I grew up playing with as a kid. And sorry this video has been almost an hour. It's almost as long as a freaking playthrough. But I had a lot to say about the wrestling figures. But anyway, that'll do it. Catch you guys later. Peace.